What's up, guys? This is Tim Bunau. Out here today looking at a rut spot I found last year. Actually doing some topo work on the map, cyber scouting if you will. Saw a big drainage cut with a saddle on top of it. Came and checked it out beginning of the season with a set. Actually had 3 does come out in front of me and a small basket. 8 came out from this typical area where you would expect the bedding to be. On my way out, on the drainage cut, I noticed a scrape, so I set up a camera there and I just let it roll. I knew I wasn't going to be able to make it back here. Well, I kind of figured I wasn't going to be able to make it back here, so I just let the camera roll. I actually ended up coming back towards the end of October when I set up over that scrape. That's when I kind of realized when I was coming in that there's actually something that it doesn't really get talked a lot about. It seems like we fully focus on the 1/3 line for the travel, routes kind of cross on the leeward side. But I noticed on the opposite side of this drainage ditch, it's a big ravine. I noticed a trail coming down off it. It's got a cliff on the right and a cliff on the left-hand side, so it's kind of funneling. I kind of first thought it was just drainage through, from water and everything. Further investigation, sure enough, there's tracks coming up and down it. Actually coming down it more or less. So when I hunted that, I pulled the camera card. There wasn't really much on there. Put the card back in there and left. Came back at the end of the season, pulled it, and sure enough, that scrape got hit every single day. There was a southwest wind from I think November 4th to like the 13th, every single day. The interesting thing is all the younger bucks are using the 1/3 line, the leeward side, coming all the way down this ridge. Just a very, very long ridge. The mature bucks, the couple older ones that actually came in, they actually use that parallel trail. So you have the drainage ditch, and they're actually coming up the side of it and hitting that leeward side trail, and then they're turning and going. They're coming off the opposite side. I believe the wind is going right over to them. So that's going to be the difficult part, is trying to set up on this scrape so I can cover all the trails. Not even the scrape, just trying to set up on the trails without my wind going across and still be able to cover this parallel trail. The problem is with it is the angle of the drainage ditch and the hill. So basically what I did is I have one setup here. I am 20 yards to the scrape. The camera is just about in the 1/3 line trail, and so it's still being used a little bit, but not as much. And it's about 25-30 yards below the stand is that parallel trail that's coming up through it. So what I did is, for the sake of video, I got some smoke bombs here. We're going to climb up in the tree stand. We're going to light some of them off and see what the wind's doing. It's a southwest wind today. And then I'm going to go to my second option. My second option is actually sitting in that drainage ditch. I can cover the parallel trail. I can't get to the scrape, which is fine. I can still get to them before they get to that the scrape if they're using the parallel trail, and I can still get to the 1/3 line right at the top of that drainage ditch where they're crossing. I can still get to that. The problem is again, I don't know what my wind's going to do when it goes that way. I try not to, I want them to still use that parallel trail. Access for both ways. If I set up in the drainage ditch, I'll come in through the public access. If I set up on this side of the scrape, in the inside, we'll say the corner, I actually gain permission on a piece of private that I can cut through and to come onto here. So basically what we're going to do now is we're going to try to set off some smoke bombs, see what the wind's doing with the thermals and everything. I got the stand as high as it could possibly go. We're going to give it a whirl, and then we'll tear it down. We'll go across the drainage ditch or into the drainage ditch and set up, and we'll see what happens there. Alright, so this is actually the third setup. The second setup was just over to my right, 15-20 yards. I didn't like it. Too much stuff in the way. I couldn't get the proper height to get, a majority of shots or whatever. I can only cover 2 lanes, which I mean is to be expected when you're hunting public. But went back up to the scrape. I started walking trails back and forth, and this tree actually presented more of a shot. I thought it was a little more open. After you get up there, there's actually some pretty decent back cover. So this is actually right on top of the big cut. The camera is 5-6 yards in front of the parallel trail. The scrape is another 25 yards up. At 25 yards. The trail that comes across the cut, or the drainage ditch, that comes up and over. There's actually a shot right between 2 trees, and it's not real narrow. That presents a shot right before the scrape. That's 5-6 yards in front of the scrape. So there's that shot opportunity. The parallel trail, if he decides to come off the parallel trail and come up into the scrape a little bit more, I have another shot off in the distance. And like I said, it's got a pretty decent amount of back cover. So I'm going to get up there and let some smoke bombs off to see what it does. Alright guys, so a quick recap. It's 90 degrees out. I've been in there for 5 hours now. It's hot. The thermals are definitely working. It's a little bit different than what is going to be happening in November. I would like to say just the thermals are probably a little bit more, a little stronger. So this spot is a rut spot. November, it won't be an all-day sit because of the thermals and my position of it. My thermals would be dumping right down into that bottom where everything would be pooling up in there. I just don't think it'd be a very a wise choice. This is actually going to be a sit where I'm going to get in there after the thermal switch, and then I'll get out of there when those thermals drop again. That's backed by letting my camera soaked last year. Most of the bucks that cruise through there were between 10 a.m. and like 3 p.m. It's all midday. I think a little bit of that is because of that thermal switch. Now the hill they're coming from is directly behind me. When they're coming across, that wind is right in their face, the southwest wind face, or the southwest wind is right into their face. Now that thermal pole is switching. Now it's coming up in their face. They're smelling what's in the bottom, and they're smelling across that hill. They're dropping down, then they're coming back up. Now that thermal is actually behind them. The wind is at their face, and that thermal tunnel effect is up there around the 1/3. I just think whether or not that's 100% the case through there, I'm not 100% sure. But that's within theory. That's kind of why I'm waiting till the thermals to switch around, and then again it's backed by the trail camera photos from last year. Moving the stand 40 yards. My first option, letting off the smoke bombs. That went 360 degrees around the tree. Went every different direction. So I kind of felt comfortable with it, but moving my stand over to the third location, which is right along the edge of that drainage, 4 out of the 5 smoke bombs, they went right into that drainage and up and out. I feel a lot more comfortable. I have good back cover. I'm going to be using a camera this year. The parallel trail, I can cover that one. 2 shots through there. I can get to that scrape coming from the 1/3 leeward side trail. There's one opportunity right through there. He has to stop right between 2 trees. Other than that, I mean, I really can't do too much. Really looking forward to it. The smoke bombs, I really wouldn't suggest doing it. I did it just for the purpose of showing on video. I found it was really hard trying to follow milkweed, just show it. Everything I brought in is being brought back out. Everything was thrown into that can. Sparks, I waited around for a while to make sure there was nothing else going on. Was it a smart decision? I don't know, but it showed up to be pretty cool. Out of that, yeah, I guess till next time.